Hello, welcome to another episode of Mindful Drawing. I'm Rooks is Fun here on the internet, and Robert if you find me in the real world. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. We're going to engage in a meditative practice that incorporates the act of drawing with our body and our breath and finding a stillness so that we can kind of witness our own creative energies flowing outwards through some medium of our choice onto a paper, and use that to explore some of our inner questions and to open up the space to sit with what might be going on in the mind and to let it out through some productive medium that is the drawing, the act, and being in that moment with ourselves, with others, and with the guidance that you find here. This week we'll use some very simple drawing of parallel lines in multiple directions to create a dense field or matrix that we can use to kind of hold on to moments of our mind, hold on to moments of technique and action that will then guide our meditation inwards. And we'll expand from that field out and use it as a platform to understand our visual processing a little bit, to witness the ways our eyes perceive pattern, and from that gain some more conscious or mindful engagement with that part of our brain, guiding us as creatives or just bringing some of that practice internal to how we can use the techniques of breathing and movement of the hands to bring relaxation, to bring focus throughout the day. There's no prerequisites here, no special abilities to draw. We're just making marks on a piece of paper. So pick up your favorite pencil, a pen, anything you have handy, grab a sketchbook or just a piece of plain printer paper, and let's draw together. Just begin with a little warm-up for our hands and our arms, maybe a little rolling of the shoulders, a little extending and rolling of the wrists, and then some stretching and contracting of the fingers. And we'll go with a little warm-up on the scratch page or piece of paper, just to develop a bit of rhythm into the hand and eye of constructing a series of parallel lines in whatever direction that might align or be comfortable with how you're sitting now, just starting to draw some straightish, wobbly, or precise lines in a generally parallel fashion across a piece of paper, whether they are evenly spaced or variably spaced, can be a place of play and exploration as you get into how the hand wants to work today, how the muscles might be feeling, and how it changes over the space of a page or with different directions, going fast or slow, just to feel some of the difference. And picking another direction, somewhat perpendicular or counter, or kind of making a diagonal grid here on my paper. Yours might be more vertical and horizontal, or more stretched or compressed, but just something a bit even to feel into that measure of how the hand and arm are moving and holding the pencil. And I'll add another bit of one in, just picking another direction. So we're working kind of all the angles that the hand can move with the page. Feel the strokes that maybe press across or draw towards in preparation for letting that control drift more into the background as we work on a longer form drawing here. I think that's a good bit of warming up. And on another page, with whatever you feel like drawing with, take a moment to find, pen or pencil, sketchbook or pad. We'll kind of begin from the same exercise to develop that field or matrix, just choosing a direction that feels nice to you now and developing that series of parallel lines, perhaps with a little more calibration and territory to them. We can now connect them to our breath and movement. So you take a breath in and finding the beginning, and let a breath out easily as we move that pen or pencil across the page. Breathing into the return and out across the page. Feel free to bring these in breaths and out breaths at your own pace, along with how your breathing moves. You might be faster or slower than mine. And without the talking, these are just starts to a rhythm to remember to breathe in, to find some position, and let that breath flow outwards with the movement of the pencil, beginning to fill the space of the page with a rhythm of lines. Our attention on each new stroke, the opportunity for guidance in the in-breath between to how we might control or let go of the spacing. And once that moment is established, just sticking with it as the breath comes out. And as you may reach an edge of the paper, selecting a new direction, perhaps diagonal or perpendicular to what you've already done, and continuing the field to expand from the finding of location. Here I'm beginning at the beginnings of the previous lines, and just letting the breath extend that point off in another direction with another sequence of being in the moment or the space of a breath in to position and out through action. And as that breathing rhythm begins to become the fabric of our output here, creating this matrix on the page, we can let our attention go further in to the marks we are making, perhaps drift down into your fingertips, feeling of the motion of the line, the texture of the paper, and the medium that you might be using. Where does the pencil press on the fingertips? Are there areas, tension, high pressure? Can you relax the grip a bit to be firm, but also supple? Gentle alignments with each new line across the paper, each new breath, to bring that rhythm into being. And don't worry if the field drifts or flutters a bit as each local moment rides its wave of attention there in the hand, and the breath may not quite maintain a consistency with the overall field, and that's okay. We're here focused on each movement, each kind of parallel connection. A series of repetitions. Expressing their local and unique attention to the interaction of the elements at that moment. The pen, ink, or graphite on the page, the paper's texture and interaction with that medium, the vibrations that work their way up through the instrument into our fingertips, the position of our hand holding onto this tool, the extension of our motion through our arm, fingers, and this external object becoming both a part of us and how we create or make marks here, and also an extension. You can bring your attention up through the wrist and the hand, each stroke feeling its tension, firmness, and working it towards subtlety, suppleness, finding an equilibrium or a balance to the forces through the repetition of the action. By now we should start to have a pretty full page or dense field, depending on how many times you've made it across and found other directions. And within this, we can now use our state of connection with the hand and the breathing to begin to search around for shapes that might stand out to us. Perhaps there are little triangles or hexagons or other closed cells. Some might pop in to our eyes' attention very obviously, and beginning there, what attracts the eye is an act of exploration to allow our attention now to shift from the practice with the way of drawing to the practice of seeing in the drawing. Becoming mindful of when our focus is very near, perhaps in these smaller, distinct shapes between the grid. Bringing our attention to the way we might draw or highlight those shapes. Does the pen move clockwise or counterclockwise? Does the medium that you're using layer well with the lines, or do you begin to introduce a bit of offset? I find I very opportunistically change direction, perhaps a little based on the extension of my arm, or just through that bouncy kind of randomness of attention in the mind. And that can be a place to bring some focus, choosing the direction of interaction with each new shape, and maintaining that over a series to again allow that choice to become first conscious and then drift back into the space of technique over a few repetitions of a practice. And in reducing the elements that we subconsciously or consciously make this choice about each time we perform the action, we can let new parts of the current moment and of the act come into our attention. How does your mind-eye connection read this visual field? Is it sequential, cumulative? Does it jump around at random, drawn in by specific shapes or unique oddities manifest from those earlier actions? Starting to find pattern within the arbitrary. Building up a structure, organization that we can bring our attention to, bring our awareness to the ways we see, the ways our mind, whether trained or through experience, begin to organize the patterns it encounters in the world. Probably each of us somewhat similar and completely different. And with this attention to the way our observance witnesses shapes, figures, and visual patterns around us, and we begin to guide that or shift it to find similar things at different scales of intensity, looking for larger collections of a similar action. Moving along that established route and general description of a shape in this field of lines, but guiding the pen to work in a larger motion. And with some of these larger shapes, it might go a little slower in the drawing. You can bring that attention to the breath and action back together as the technique drifts into the background, and our presence here and now in an act in our bodies can come into the foreground again as we breathe in to find position and let it out in the action of the drawing. And can you find the motion around those shapes in the same breath? Or does it take a couple? Finding that rhythm for yourself. I like to use the leftover space of a breath. I don't make the full revolution, just let it sit in that stillness between the breaths. Before either passing again on the route or relocating somewhere else. And as some of us may be preparing to start a new semester for the spring, or just returning to our regular schedule after the holidays, we might find ourselves dipping back into that virtual space of teaching, working, or communicating in these online platforms, and using some of this time we have left to practice in the space of that deep quietness in the presence of others. It can often be very uncomfortable and unnerving and missing or dulling a point of our learned interaction and our learned perception of reading the space with other people. And can we spend a little time softening the edges of that silence by finding some comfort and some practice in it. Tracking along with the breath, tracking along with the shapes in this field. And smoothing it out. As you draw for a few moments, you might enjoy some time of shading or highlighting some of the shapes, playing in the space of the overlap, or just continuing along the path of moving around at different scales and different sizes of interaction, aligning with your breath in the moment within the act of drawing. Softly begin to come back to our awareness of our space and where we are. We often get drawn deeply in to the space of the page for a few moments. And while it might be nice to spend the rest of the day there, just enjoying that act of breathing and being with the moment, we can be thankful for the time to practice and look for the opportunities to bring that into whatever else it is we have to do for the rest of the day, to connect back with our breath, to bring our focus in, and then to let it expand back out again, to see where we are and take stock in that map of what we are doing and what is the context, and find a way to relax into the uneasy and enjoy some of the process. That wraps up today's practice, a journey of finding this tiling of shapes, this zooming in and out of both our perception and our action, and connecting our breath to the motion of our hand and to the expression outward of our creativity. Try incorporating these practices throughout your day, perhaps while sitting in a meeting and finding it hard to keep your focus, especially if you're on this virtual platform through Zoom or any other medium. And give yourself a few moments to breathe and just begin to make these shapes through a repetition and find that stillness and balance that can bring your attention back to the moment that you're in and bring your best engagement to whatever you're doing. Or perhaps you can use this to find a flow in your own creative practice to begin to produce works of art that develop from the establishing of these warm-up exercises as an attention and expand that mindfulness into whatever intention you want to bring to your practice. If you've enjoyed your experience, give us a thumbs up below and leave a comment letting me know how it went for you. We conduct these practices live via Zoom every week on Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. You can find it at the Mindful Pratt website and add it to your calendar and drop in if you ever feel like connecting in person. Or you can find me here each week as a recording, posted usually the day after. We'll continue these practices into the spring, each week with new ways to enter into this space of meditation through drawing and to practice a little bit of expression on the page. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and as always, draw well. This is Rooks is Fun, signing off.